Hello, everyone. We are so excited to interview Karen Kubita, CEO and founder of Karen Kubita's agency. Amazing interview. She does absolutely everything from wellness, working with up and coming artists. And so we know you're going to enjoy this interview. Hey guys, we are so excited to have Karen Kubitas here. We just actually found out she's actually our first arts entrepreneur, manager slash like everything. She does everything, and like I've known Karen for like the last 6 years, and she's just absolutely amazing. And we're just so happy, Karen, for you to take time to talk with us this morning.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of your guys' series, everything that you guys are doing, and I'm just so pumped. You guys have such amazing guests, and the work you're doing is so helpful that I just can't wait for our conversation today.
Yay! Well, everybody take notes because this is our first arts admin extraordinaire on the show. So I know, Karen, you're going to be able to give them a lot of hints, especially people, we kind of assume as musicians when we first go to school, well, especially if you're an instrumentalist, I'm going to play in an orchestra or, I'm going to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that a lot of people even envision the kind of things that you've done with your career when they're first starting off at like 18 or 21 or so. They just kind of want to follow one path. So maybe tell us about that. Like, how did you end up where you are?
Yeah, totally. So I was very fortunate to be able to attend Interlochen Arts Academy for one summer for camp, and then I was offered an opportunity to go for junior and senior year of high school. And in this camp, it's interdisciplinary, so there's dance and theater and music and all the things. And we all had kind of like chores on campus as high schoolers, and I got to work with this lady named Jay Barry. And she taught me everything about behind the scenes. We were putting chairs in stands, we were organizing logistical things, and that just really opened up my love for supporting creatives and just seeing like what it takes to put something on a much larger scale than just the logistics, but the financial component to it, the people, the audience, everything. So I took all that knowledge, and when I got to Boston, I went to school there. I went to Laundry for a year and then Boston Conservatory. Boston's just such a great city, and I had the opportunity to be out in the field, which is what I always suggest. Like, you can't improvise experience. So I was fortunate enough to be able to like learn how to spot an orchestra by having a music director be like, here's some tape, spot this. And for me to be like, what does that even mean? And then have to figure it out. So from there, just kind of with the posture of, wanting to learn new things and be a student, I started climbing the corporate ladder of this particular orchestra that was called the Boston Classical. And I did development, I did marketing, all while still in school, and then eventually became the assistant of the executive director. And then at 21, ended up running the orchestra. We were a 5-concert-a-year orchestra. It was about $500,000 budget. There was a board. It was just like all this craziness. I have no idea how I ended up there. Definitely some divine intervention. And at the same time, I was doing my degree in music and trying to freelance, but I realized that there was so much more that I could do as a helper of musicians than I could as maybe a classical saxophonist. So at that point, I was at a crossroads. Thankfully, though, I had dipped my toes in many different parts of being a freelancer, both as a musician and as an arts administrator. And then I got what I thought was my dream gig at the Boston Symphony, started climbing the corporate ladder there. It was amazing. Working in a place with the people that we had considered as students had reached the pinnacle of success. Got to meet all the brass players, do the thing. And then I realized that a lot of these musicians that had reached, fame and fortune and glory or whatever, were very unhappy. I was like, what does this mean? Like, you mean like you got your dream gig and you don't love it? What's wrong? And that just opened a whole other portal of possibilities. I started doing some research on marketing and branding, looking at classical musicians and like what was the genre missing per se as far as, you know, advancing their musicians. So my first hypothesis was, what's the difference between like Yo-Yo Ma and, you know, the principal cellist of the Boston Symphony, and just marketing and branding. So just kind of figuring out how can I bring that into the field and just dissect it. Because when I graduated, what are taxes? What is marketing? How do you charge for things? What are contracts? Like I just literally knew nothing. So that took me down a path, a lot of mental health. So became a life coach, business coach, and then essentially just built a company. Initially, that was going to support orchestral musicians, then support all musicians, and now we're an agency. But this has been like 8 years in the making.
Wow, that's so much like amazing stuff that you've done, and you're not even 30, which is crazy. I mean, that's just absolutely amazing. You know, just to have that mindset, like in your early 20s, is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when you said, Karen, at 21, you were working with an organization that had a $500,000 budget. I mean, most 21-year-olds are just looking for lunch money. So, right. I mean, I think take notes, everyone, right? There's so much that you can do. And you were doing that while you were in school, correct? That's what you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit. So we'll go back. I think a lot of students, and this might be the culture or maybe just personal choice, think, oh, when I go to school, I need to focus. You know, I need to focus on my instrument, and then I'll figure everything out once I finish school. And I mean, neither of us did that. You know, I was working all during school. So I was like, yes, when you were talking about your hustle, I'm like, that's right. I've been working since 16, whatever, all you people who start at 25. But I'm wondering, you know, why or what made you want to work and go to school versus like, okay, I'm going to do this one thing, and then when I'm finished, I'll focus on this other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm a first generation Latina, so I come from immigrants and just from a really strong work ethic is just one of the core values in my family. So my parents, you know, never really cared about our grades or anything like that. All they desired was, if you're going to do something, make sure you're really good at what you do and you're fully invested. And you know, I believe that I couldn't get some of the experience that I have in the classroom because it was just music and it was just your instrument, and it was a very tiny bubble and almost like a vacuum. So I really felt that if I wanted to be the best creative that I could be, I needed to have more experience. And one of the things that I'm so passionate about communicating, especially to emerging artists, is that you don't have to win a job, or you don't have to create or do anything to have an opinion or to make a difference. And I think if we can look at things from a place of service and helping and learning together as a community, that just made sense to work with various organizations, to learn as much as I could, and still also be really good at school and at my instrument and what I, you know, set out to do.
No, that's fantastic, because I feel like sometimes, and I'm not sure if you have this, you know, with your teachers when you're in school, but some teachers even like discourage their students to have like anything outside of university. Like, all you should do is think about practicing and winning this job or whatnot. I mean, did you have any of that, like that pushback when you were?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My teacher, bless his heart, I live in the South, I can say that, I guess. He just was, he almost like challenged me and was like, there's no way you could build a company. Like, you're never going to make money. You're just going to be another starving artist and end up getting another degree. And I was like, well, that's so sad. But initially my intentions were not pure. I did set out to prove them wrong. But in that journey, I was so surprised now working with educators at how much influence they have, but also like how misinformed they are about like what the real world actually looks like.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
That's like a Patreon episode, because we're both educators, yet that resonates very strong how out of touch a lot of educators are with what the world actually is. And bless their heart, it's probably not their fault. Like, they might have just gone straight through school, got a job, and really have had a lot of success, and, you know, haven't had to do that. So yeah, well, that's how that generation was too. You know, different times. Yeah, so. There's still some people doing that who are lucky enough to come out of school and get a job. But anyway, So I have a question. So just seeing because I mean, I've been working with you the last 6 years.
seeing your company, it's evolved like quite a bit, and you've
Yeah.
gone through different brandings. You've have the emerging artists series. You have your podcast. Can you talk about all these things and like how this came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, I had the worst business model idea ever. It was called Cubitus Artist Management, and it was only managing high-profile orchestral musicians and trying to play Tetris essentially with like symphony orchestra schedules, which was so foolish. It was like 2 years out trying to figure out gigs for people and just how to negotiate and what that looked like as a desire to just allow the greater public to have access to these world-class musicians. So that's where the intention was. And then I realized in that process that this particular niche market did not necessarily need the bookings. It was more of like the marketing help. So how to build a website, how to take photos that aren't just in the concert hall and not just in tails and not just like in the super gross box that, was not going to get butts and seats in a concert or even make it accessible for anybody. So that's kind of where it started, like just demystifying these things through working with a photographer, working, to build a cohesive website that makes sense, figuring out like what musicians actually need. So for me, marketing and branding is one of those words that is just kind of thrown out, almost like wellness, where you're like, what does that even mean to you? So brand, and this is kind of new for a lot of musicians, is who you are. So like me, my dog, my husband, my life, I live in Nashville, that is the brand. Marketing is how I share those things that I am and that, are my calling and my purpose. And there was a lot of confusion in the music industry about how you went about that, what that was. There was the rise of social media, so Instagram, Facebook, all of that. So I essentially built a company that was the middleman between creatives and the other creatives and just trying to help people piece careers together. And then that turned into became a life coach and we need extra guidance. And I also kind of got tired of working with just divas, to be honest, like really, and people that just didn't want to learn and didn't want to be malleable and didn't want to allow our industry to move forward. Like I've always had such a big vision about like disrupting the industry. And I always ask the people that I work with, like, if the work that you're doing, you don't see the results in your lifetime, would you still do it? And that question just like really wrecked me in my early 20s because it's like, am I doing this for the fame and glory? Am I doing this for the money? Am I doing this to be selfish? Or like, what are we doing? So as I kept asking these questions and almost like blissful ignorance going and evolving without even realizing it, I decided that I wanted something like the Emerging Artist Program. Like I wish that when I had graduated, somebody could guide me and tell me, and the work you guys are doing, like, what does my CV need to look like? Like what photos, what does that mean? Website, all the stuff. How much should I charge? Am I ready to give a master class? Can I go present on something? Like, what does the landscape of the world look like post practice room and school and band and, whatever? So that kind of evolved into there being a need for emerging artists. So we created a program to help students transition from school to the real world, as well as like helping them with endorsements and sponsorships and things like that. And then from there, I've always loved not like radio like an old person, but just hearing conversations and learning things from an auditory standpoint. So now that podcast became a thing in the last 5 years, I ignorantly just kind of went into it. I don't even know if that's a word. But I was like, I just kind of want to share things. And I feel like some of this knowledge should be free. And I think if we could help move this conversation forward, it could just make us all better as a community. So I decided to start a podcast. It's been here for 2 years. It's called The Musician's Guide to Being Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. And we've recently gone from an episode a week to 2 episodes a week. And that is just such a huge passion project. I'm so blessed that I get to bring incredible guests onto the podcast, just like you guys, and just share insider things that I wish I had known, like how to do a contract, how to post on social media, how to have conflict, and all these things, how to be vulnerable, all of the things that we're just not taught. So I get to do that, which is amazing. And then we also have a workshop component to our agency. And we just came off of a week and a half of body, mind, spirit workshops. So I have different programs and things that we kind of bring together to continue to aid in how can we disrupt and have a better industry instead of just complaining about it. That's my desire, to kind of build what does not exist yet, and kind of help as many people as possible.
Yay! Hey, I want to give you a plug and a congrats, Karen, because your podcast is awesome.
Yes.
I was listening to one of your solo episodes, like I think it was like right before Christmas, and you were talking about COVID shaming and other things. And I was like, she's just so honest. I mean, I felt like you were just at my table having coffee with me. So if you have not, checked out Karen's podcast, you need to do that. Yes. Like ASAP, save it on your favorite spot to listen to podcasts, because she's just you're really candid. And I think that's something that no industry can have too much of. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you, Artina. I am still obsessed with our episode. You were just so spicy, and you just brought the fire, and they want you back. So we need to get you back. So tell us how it is.
Oh, I have way too many things to say, Karen. So let's talk about your company and COVID. So something that's definitely, been a negative aspect of COVID is that artists and musicians haven't had as many concerts. Of course, there's people innovating so many things online, but how has that affected your company, or has it affected it? Have you had to readjust how you go about marketing yourself to musicians that want gigs and branding and all of that? What has that looked like?
Yeah. So I am very grateful for COVID, because from a business standpoint, in the sense that it has forced me to learn a lot of things and to just kind of grow up, honestly. And I don't feel any shame about this, but I've been in business. This is our 8th year in 2021. And I did not know what a profit and loss statement was until last year, when we were applying for the PPP. And they're like, "What? Give me a profit and loss statement." I was like, "I don't know what that is." So I'm like Googling profit, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, geez, I should know this." So it was a really good kick in the butt about like, yeah, I didn't go to school for business, and I'm not like a business person, but if I have a business, I need to know what the heck I'm doing. So there's always more to learn and more to do. And it was just really humbling. And it really just encouraged me to encourage more people to just not feel shame. Like, if you don't know something, like, ask the freaking question. That's what your accountant is for. That's what the internet is for. Like, we live in an era where there's no excuse to not know something. So that was really helpful in that way. I also realized that, for me, in my opinion, the difference between a business and a creative is that the business knows that there's no choice but to pivot. And I have found that a lot of my artists have had resistance to moving and adjusting and shifting during COVID. And I mean, even though I have both hats as a business, but also a musician, like, I just know intrinsically that in my gut, I have to shift. Like, it's not optional. And, I do a lot of research on like practice and risk. And it's like, yeah, we can have all these ideas and we can create all this stuff and yes, be super prepared and super amazing. But at the end of the day, you have to take a risk. So COVID has really empowered me in that way to just own it and put whatever I want to put out there and just really trust the process. It has been ironically better financially than it was pre the pandemic, because a lot of creatives really put value in furthering their careers, and they realize that there's really no security in any industry, unfortunately. So there has been a lot of just come to Jesus conversations and just a lot of people wanting to embrace that discomfort. So it's actually been really transformative, and we've had to adapt as far as flexibility with our clients. I mean, I have an online business and I've been blessed. I've had it for a long time, but my entire market is musicians. And when the financial part of our industry collapsed, there was a huge fear that, well, people won't be able to pay or it won't happen. But it also taught me that there is just money to be found everywhere. And we kind of put this interference on how much we think we can have or how much we think we deserve. So more than anything, I can't explain the numbers or anything, but there was a lot of deserved work that needed to happen. And, me fundamentally understanding that my work is of high service and worthy of compensation. And that's been more of the healing work that has happened during COVID.
Wow, that's amazing. I also liked what you said about COVID forced you to learn new skills and just to better yourself. And I feel like, we're all, kind of taking a chapter out of that book, and we're, just have to know how to evolve or we're just going to be stuck. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk some on, you do a lot of work with wellness, and I feel like not enough people talk about that in the music field. I mean, besides, okay, a pianist or a string player might, have carpal tunnel or something like that. But, you're thinking more about the mindset.
Mhm.
Like, how did that come about? And because it's amazing work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's come about from my own personal struggles. I'm a food addict, and I spent the last decade of my life hustling for worthiness. And somewhere along the way, I got the message that I had to work harder and more and faster. And if it wasn't hurting, I wasn't working hard enough. And I used to really pride myself in how many times I went to the ER. And, you look at my career and you're like, wow, it's so impressive. And whenever I get the question of oh, would you take anything back? Did you have any regrets or whatever? I'm always like, I don't regret it, but I would 100% pick my health over the success that I've been fortunate to have. And the reason for that is because your body keeps the score. It's also a good book, but your body really does maintain all the traumas and all of the things. And I found myself, from one semester to the next in my undergrad, I had gained 50 pounds. And I walked into my private lesson, a saxophone lesson, and my teacher was like, you just got to practice more. You just got to do more. You're just not doing enough. And I was like, and looking now and, crying about it in therapy, I thought wow, I really wish my teacher or somebody would have been like, hey, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Or that there would have been a class or something that could have equipped me to realize that I am the product. I play the instrument. I sell myself. I do the thing. And if I'm not okay, then no matter how much I practice, I can't think my way into being healthy. So these experiences and the limitations that I've seen and the just even personal come to Jesus that I've had to have with my own health have made me just really want to advocate that musicians understand intrinsically that they are already enough and that it is possible to live a life that is fulfilling, healthy, where you feel abundant, and it does not have to hurt. So a lot of that has become just, it has formulated into creating workshops that promote that as part of the conversation. I've also started a wellness collective within my company called The Green Room, which is very exciting with one of my clients now, co-facilitators, Kate Umbelsmucker. She's a trumpet player, and she is a certified yoga instructor. And we really just want to talk about wellness. I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to preach about it. I just want to start the conversation because I really wish that I would have known to start that conversation of hey, this every time I eat this, I feel terrible, or why is my weight fluctuating so much, or why am I tired all the time, or did I just somaticize carpal tunnel or tendonitis? Is something wrong? And I'm just projecting in my physical body, just so much stuff. And it sounds super woo woo, but it's really just about starting that conversation. And currently during COVID, actually, and I'll share this candidly, before COVID, I guess in February, I went out to dinner with my designer. We were in the middle of my rebrand, my third rebrand that launched in July of that year. We went to this restaurant and I was super excited. She was going to show me all these things. It was so fancy. And long story short, I got really sick in the dinner and I had to step outside. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. This is in Music Row. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fancy and I'm going to lose my mind here. And I was like, I have to throw up. I don't feel good. I have to call my husband. I thought I was having a heart attack. And that was rock bottom. I had to leave the middle of this dinner. It was a whole scene. I was horrified. I went to my therapist the next day and I was like, I'm just out of control. I think I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. I'm crying. I'm so emotional. This is not who I am. What is happening? And it took me almost not being able to do my job anymore to wake up and be like, we have to shift. So I went and saw a naturopath, and I have what's called, my God, what is the word? Just the worst adrenal fatigue ever. So severe adrenal fatigue. So essentially your adrenals, which musicians don't talk about, are these awesome organs that work in tandem with your nervous system. We have two nervous systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. One of the nervous systems focuses on fight or flight. So this releases cortisol and adrenaline and allows you to escape danger. And then the other one calms you down. So when you're stressed out and then you're breathing again, that's the other nervous system. And mine had switched. So my husband could walk into the room and scare me and I would start crying and hyperventilating. I was just literally on edge all of the time. Mind you, the pandemic is starting. everyone's losing their mind. I'm losing my mind. And my nervous system is freaking out. And I'm like, oh no. And, I already was the heaviest I had ever been. It was just like this vicious cycle of like, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. And had I taken traditional medicine approach, I might have just been given anti-anxiety medication or something else and explored a disorder. But the reality was it was my nervous system and my diet. So had a full-on diet lifestyle change, a lot of supplements and just self-care and wellness. And that just really hit me in the face in that like wellness and fitness are not the same thing. And I used to associate like, oh, I just want to be a fit person or I just want to be healthy, but I negated the self-care. I negated the introspective work, the thinking time, the processing of things. So my world just kind of collided. And it was an amazing wake-up call and such a blessing to realize, first of all, that your body can heal itself, and also that your body doesn't give up on you. But it is so important to take care of your body and to explore that. And it's okay if you didn't know, but if you hear this or if somebody mentions something, like it's your job to kind of further explore that. So that's where that passion comes from. I've had various issues throughout my entire career, but most recently, like this has been the impetus to be like, no, this has to take priority. And I spent the last 8 months just really focusing on my health, and it's been extraordinary. I have made more money. I am happier. More things are falling into place. I have just so much better creative juices. I'm a better person. I'm a nicer person. And it's not often that something is wrong with you, but it's simply like some of the habits that you're building. And, now I enjoy physical activity and walking, and it's not competitive. We're not doing anything crazy, but we're moving our body and it makes such a huge difference. So I just want to encourage anybody that's listening, like wherever you are on your journey, just do more research, find a support system. And it's okay to, be at the beginning of this or to have negated this. Like if you don't know, you can't help what you don't know. When I was working at the Symphony, I used to have Dunkin' Donuts in Boston. And I realized that cream and sugar, which is the basic coffee, had 65 grams of sugar. I used to have 3 a day. I don't know how I'm not dead or a diabetic.
Wow.
So it's just things like that where you just don't know. And when you know, you do better.
And when you know, you do better.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's awesome. I know you're an avid reader. Could you, and we'll drop this in the show notes, could you recommend some books for just like just wellness that at least like your top 2 or 3 that you love that we could let our audience know about?
Yeah, absolutely. There's my favorite book ever that I recommend to everybody. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf. This book talks about the process, and it approaches spirituality and gratitude. So that for me falls under the umbrella of wellness in that way. He also has another book called Pounding the Stone by the same guy that wrote Chop Wood. That is also amazing. And as far as wellness, to be honest, I recommend stuff on the Enneagram. I'm working on getting my certification with that, but there's something about knowing your true motivations as a person that equips you with the language to know, like, this is the kind of stuff that I need or that I could get on board with as far as my own wellness.
What number are you, Karen?
I lead with an 8. And I have a 7 wing.
I think I'm a 6. I dabbled a little bit, but I don't know what my wing is, though. I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, it would be between the 6. So either a 5 wing or a 7 wing.
Oh, thank you. I'll go read and see which one I feel like I lean towards. That's awesome. So, okay, man, I feel like we could just sit here and talk all day.
Yeah.
But let's to a lighter note, but also just piggyback on what you've been saying about wellness and self-care. What are some things that you do or you have been doing that have just really uplifted your spirits, not just because of the pandemic, but in general, that you do away from your job, that you're like, oh, this gives me so much joy in life?
Honestly, it's been walking. I have really enjoyed just fresh air, being outside, socially distant, of course. And just making movement a priority for me has been just so amazing. I still look forward to, and not like in an annoying way, like my endorphins after I work out, not at all, but just kind of like the air and feeling like I've moved my body and like I'm not so stuck at home or in my chair in front of Zoom. Zoom fatigue is such a thing. And we don't feel it. We don't talk about it, but it's a thing. Like your eyes get exhausted, your head gets exhausted. There's like a heaviness that comes from being in front of a screen. So I've really enjoyed just the outdoors. Honestly, notice that's so dorky. I've enjoyed having more structure in order to have more freedom. There's this amazing guy named Jocko Willink who says discipline equals freedom. So I've really enjoyed being more intentional with my morning and more intentional with my evenings, just so I can have better sleep and I could feel just better through all the insanity that is happening in our world.
Oh, amen. And speaking of Zoom fatigue, these are new glasses. If anybody's like, she never wears glasses. Yeah, that's because I couldn't take it anymore. And so I got like all the blue light, things that will filter it out because the headaches are real. And I started to feel bad because friends would be like, oh, hey, you want to get on Zoom or FaceTime? I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to see you. Can you just old fashioned call me? So that's real. And thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, no one talks about that, but it's definitely a thing now. And I guess one of the nice things about being on Zoom all the time, you can just get off your cell phone. Like you don't want to be on your cell phone after you have to, teach or be in a call. So I just saw my notification this morning. It said, oh, your screen time is like way down from like previous. I'm like, awesome. At least that's good.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, this has been a great conversation. Will you tell everybody where they can find you and your companies?
Yeah, absolutely. We live everywhere, but mostly on Instagram. My handle is Karen.Cubides, and all of my brands are linked to my page. And we have a new website, KarenCubides.com.
Yay.
Awesome.
And I have one random question. Are you going to do the Clubhouse thing? Are you doing the Clubhouse thing? The newest, greatest social media frenzy.
Okay, Artina. So I just got on TikTok and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? So not yet. And I keep saying I'm doing it for research to help us, but I'm like, this is kind of great. Although I will say that the social media gods have managed to fully capture our attention. Because I don't know if you're familiar with TikTok. When you open it, it just like goes versus like Instagram, you have to click. So no, I'm taking a break from all of the new stuff because I literally can't keep up. I feel like I'm 100.
Just had to throw that out there. I just went on there myself and I'm like, what is happening? Somebody asked me to talk and I'm like, no, I didn't even know how to take myself off mute. It's great, so many things.
Yeah.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Karen. Everybody, thanks for watching today. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Wow.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Karen is always just so candid. Don't you think that we love the fact that people can share themselves with us and how much we can learn from their stories? So if you have not, press pause and go and follow Karen on all of her social media sites, her website. Especially if you are a young artist, and especially during this time, you've been having trouble kind of gaining your footing. Karen is definitely somebody that can help you. So again, we are always so excited to bring you all these episodes every week. Where can they find us?
You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can find us on our website at McCainDuo.com.
Make sure you hit that little bell there so you know when each episode drops. See you guys next time.